Cześć, witajcie serdecznie. Zapraszam na pierwszą część dokumentu. Sprawa dotyczy Wielkiej Brytanii, jest rok 2019 i na samym początku widzimy, jak kierowca ciężarówki dzwoni na numer alarmowy, gdyż znajduje w przyczepie swojej ciężarówki 39 martwych ciał osób. I tak oto zaczyna się właśnie największe dochodzenie w historii Wielkiej Brytanii. Od tego jednego kierowcy ciężarówki, który na początku wymiguje się ze wszystkiego, udaje, że nie wie, o co chodzi, skąd się tam wzięli, nie wie co i jak, do odkrycia, że jest to zorganizowana grupa przestępcza i myślę, że jest to świetnie zrealizowany dokument pokazujący świetnie przeprowadzone śledztwo. Osoby znalezione w ciężarówce okazało się, że są to nielegalni imigranci. I właśnie tutaj taki jawi się palący problem społeczny, jakim jest nielegalna imigracja. I po jednej stronie barykady stoją ludzie zdesperowani, którzy nie mogą godziwie zarobić we własnym kraju. Są to kraje, gdzie nie ma takiego swobodnego przepływu z państwa do państwa. Ci ludzie są naprawdę bardzo zdesperowani, nie mogą wyżywić swoich rodzin. A z drugiej strony właśnie są ludzie, którzy w perfidny sposób to wykorzystują.
Hello, caller. Is the patient breathing?
Hello, no, I'm a lorry driver and I just lifted a trailer from the port. I don't think so. There's loads of them. There's immigrants in the back, but they're all lying on the ground.
How many approximately?
I don't know. 25.
25 patients not breathing.
Yeah.
Around 1 in the morning, we had a call out over the radio. We approached the lorry from the front end and drove past it. I think one of the doors was already open, and I've looked over my right shoulder and I could see like steam coming out.
We were the first two cars on scene. The officer in the other car, he opened the back doors of the trailer. Jesus Christ. There was 3 or 4 seconds of just trying to process what you're seeing. It was almost just like silence. No one was saying anything, and no one really knew what to say.
The whole container was full of bodies, back to front.
4-9.
Potentially we're going to have to CPR, isn't it, until confirmed life extinction.
The driver just stood there, he didn't say a word. He didn't look stressed or flustered.
The time is 1:51. I'm arrested you on suspicion of murder. You do not have to say anything. Make harm defence. We do not mention when questioning something which you later rely on in court. You alright, Jack?
Yeah, I'm fine.
Just mind your head, be careful getting down. Okay?
I've been a police officer for over 30 years. I've led a large number of murder investigations. But nothing touched this.
"39 people have been found dead in the back of a lorry in Essex. The victims were discovered at 1:40 this morning. It's not known who they were or where they came from.
The discovery of 39 bodies in the back of a lorry in Essex sparks one of Britain's biggest ever murder investigations. A huge team of detectives and specialists start working on the case. One of their first jobs, identifying who the victims are.
The first thing I needed to do really was just to look in the back of the truck. So one of my colleagues just opened it maybe a few centimetres just so I could look in. And the first thing that I did actually was just tears come down my face. I've never seen that many bodies or victims before.
Before an examination can begin, the lorry must be moved to a secure location.
We needed to really think carefully about who was going to drive the vehicle. So we've got a commercial vehicle unit and one of the guys volunteered, which is no mean feat. Obviously he knew how many bodies were in the back of that vehicle. As we went out onto the main road, all the police officers bowed their heads in respect. I was in a van and I drove behind the truck. And as we were driving along, members of the public were stopping and bowing their heads all the way along the route, really. And the instruction was that we wouldn't stop. We'd just go through the red traffic lights and the police would supervise us.
The trailer arrives at a dockside warehouse, 8 hours after the bodies were discovered. And the identification process can begin.
Most of the people had removed almost all of their clothing, but they didn't have any apparent injuries or decomposition. They looked as if they'd sort of gone to sleep. It was a refrigeration unit, so obviously the initial report said that people had frozen to death, but from what I was seeing, that didn't appear to be the case. There was no condensation inside the truck. It didn't feel particularly cold in there. We had to search people, see if they had any tattoos or any sort of scars. We looked for anything that may be uniquely identifiable, clothing that they were wearing, jewellery. And then the time came to take all of the victims off of the truck.
All day, the delicate process continued. Private ambulances under police escort removing the bodies from the refrigerated container. One by one, post-mortem examinations will be carried out.
Each of the victims did have a forensic post-mortem, and the results of their death were concluded that it was a result of lack of air, essentially, so they suffocated to death.
People had died. This was the start of the largest investigation in our force's history. And their justice in my hands. I sat there and thought, wow, am I good enough for this? You know. I had Maurice Robinson, the driver of the lorry, in custody. We had to establish whether he was a witness or a suspect.
I turned the corner in the Eastern Avenue. I heard a noise out of the back of the trailer. A rumbling sort of noise. Now I thought this trailer was empty, so that's why it struck me. So that's whenever I got out and opened the back door.
So you opened the door. I'm sorry to ask this, but what did you see?
They're all out on the floor.
You okay? Take your time.
He didn't come across as a hardened criminal. Clearly you could see he hadn't been in custody before. I think he generally was in shock as to what had happened and what he was now facing.
It's all right, mate. Do you want some more water?
Please, yeah.
And just to clarify, when you picked the trailer up, as far as you knew, it was empty.
Yeah.
With Robinson claiming he had no idea there were people in the trailer he was collecting, detectives start piecing together his movements before he parked up in the industrial estate.
I quite like doing CCTV. I've been the CCTV coordinator for a number of murder investigations. Initially, we're trying to figure out the route of the lorry and how it came to be there. Robinson told us that he picked up the trailer from Purfleet Port.
Purfleet is one of 70 ports along the River Thames, receiving thousands of containers from around the world every day to be picked up by drivers and transported across the UK. To identify Robinson, detectives trawl through footage from dozens of cameras, looking for a red lorry cab pulling a white trailer.
We looked at the CCTV footage from the ticket office, and you can clearly see Robinson's face. But at one point, you can see his face just drop, and he's clearly asked about the trailer. And something just at that moment just didn't sit right. There's something he's worried about. And then he leaves the port with the trailer and then makes his way to the industrial site.
Luckily, there were a large number of premises with CCTV that showed Mo pulling up in the trailer, getting out of the trailer and walking to the rear of the doors. And you can see him clearly opening the doors, and it has a look in and then closes them.
Robinson then drives off, before returning a few minutes later to the same spot. By the time he calls the emergency services, 23 minutes have passed.
Hello, caller, is patient breathing?
No, I'm a lorry driver and I just lifted a trailer from the port. There's immigrants in the back, but they're all lying on the ground.
Sorry to just backtrack a little bit, and I know it's really difficult for you. You opened the door, you saw what you saw, and got back into the lorry, yeah?
I panicked then, my head just completely went, and I done the loop. It's like you can do a loop back round on yourself, and I just jumped in the lorry and done the loop and came back to where I was beforehand, and then that's when I rung the ambulance then.
Okay, so you panicked.
It's an odd thing to do. You've just found 39 dead people in the back of your lorry. So you're going to get back into it and go for a drive. Makes you wonder what was going through his head at the time.
Can I just clarify, what phone is it do you have?
The Samsung S8 or 9, I'm not sure.
Do you own any other mobile phones?
No.
When Mo was arrested and came into police custody, he had a Samsung mobile phone, but he also had a Nokia battery in his pocket.
You had an old phone battery?
Yeah.
How come?
Because we lose signal in Denmark. And
where? Denmark?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So I had an old phone
I mean, you'd lose signal with your
on the phone.
Your smart
Yeah.
phones, the old Nokias.
Yeah,
would
believe
still
it or not,
work.
the
Yeah.
signal, you still get it, yeah.
So where is it?
I threw it away. Whenever this all happened, I panicked. Just freaked out.
Okay. So freaked out because there's stuff on it?
No, freaked out because it just doesn't look good. It's just...
What, you thought we think you're a drug dealer?
Yeah.
It was vital for us to find out where the other half of that battery was, or where the phone was, and what usage that phone had had.
You're not naive, you're not a stupid chap. We're going to be looking for it, aren't we?
Yeah.
The chances are we'll find it. You've seen the movies, we'll get our search teams out and all that sort of thing. We will download it, even if it's broken.
Yeah.
What's going to be on it?
Nothing.
Searching the spot where Robinson parked his lorry, detectives discovered, in a drain, a smashed mobile phone.
And do you have a SIM in that phone?
There wasn't, no.
There was no SIM.
And nearby, a broken SIM card. Both are sent for forensic analysis. While detectives wait for the results of those tests, the team trying to identify the victims needs more manpower. They call on officers from around the country to assist the investigation.
I was asked to undertake the phone work. There were around 50 telephones and maybe another 10 or 15 SIM cards recovered in the back of the lorry. The issue we had is, due to the conditions within the back of the lorry, all of the victims had basically stripped down to their underwear, which had meant that their phones weren't with them. So we didn't know what belonged to who. So it was really a case of going through hundreds of telephone numbers, thousands of gigabytes of data.
As that data is gathered, reports of missing people are coming in from all over the world. And there's evidence that suggests some of the victims could be Chinese.
This is a ID card that we found in the back of the container. It's in the name of Menling Wang. Her place of birth is listed as Kina, K-I-N-A, which I believe in Greek is China. For all intents and purposes, this was a Chinese citizen living in Greece.
As investigations continue, it's believed the 39 people found dead in the back of a refrigerated lorry in Essex yesterday were Chinese nationals.
When I heard the news on the BBC about, a lorry was found with 39 Chinese bodies, I was very doubting about, the victims were Chinese. I work with the Vietnamese here, so I knew so well about, their way of escaping, sitting in the lorry to the UK. Not very long time afterwards, the telephone called all the time from the UK, from Vietnam, and they told me that their family members could be among the victims. I told, the police officers, I am very sure all of them, not some of them, but all of them were Vietnamese. At the beginning, the family members, they didn't want to come forward. They're scared because, some of them, they came here without any paper. And if they come forward and the police can tell the Home Office about, their identity, they can be sent back to Vietnam. And then I told the police. The family was very scared. I got the words from the police force that we do not do anything harmful to you. And then I told the family members here, it is okay, you please come forward, no problem.
Father Simon was a massive breakthrough for us. You know, we'd gone from in the early days of having absolutely no idea of who our victims were to suddenly being in a state where we were getting detail after detail through. We started making contact with the families in Vietnam.
Năm 2010 là mình cưới. Thằng cũng quen biết chắc 10 năm á. Trong 5 năm mà sinh 3 đứa liên tục thì nói chung là cuộc sống của vợ chồng cùng lâm nống thì cũng vất vả đấy. Lâm nống thì nói chung là con cái thì 3 đứa bắt đầu vô học hành á, thiểu thốn. Thì như ở đấy thì họ đi làm ăn hối ở đấy là nói chung là khi anh đi đó là trước đó là cũng có nhiều người đi rồi anh mới đi. Họ bay đó là đi ở mô nó người ta bắt đầu hai vợ chồng mới tham đi. Bố nói bố muốn ở nhà với mẹ con, bố muốn đi nữa. Mình không đi thì mình ở nhà mình cũng vất vả nữa. Thì khi nào là hai vợ chồng mới xác định là đi, anh nói cho anh đi. Thì bữa anh đi là mùng 6 tháng 9. Còn nói chung là anh gọi liên tục. Một ngày có khi cả chục lần. Bố gọi về chỉ cần nhìn thấy mẹ con là được. Anh chưa sân anh sân Đức. Thằng Đức không có việc đó là có mấy người họ nói đi sang anh. Khi nào anh mới xác định thì